Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Vice President, for administering the oath. Let me begin by thanking President Trump for joining us today and for offering those kind words. Mr. President, it means a great deal to me and to the agency that you made time to come out to Langley for this ceremony. You have placed enormous trust in CIA throughout your presidency, and the men and women of CIA do not take that for granted. So thank you, Mr. President, for your confidence in me and your steadfast support of our mission and our people. I am truly honored to have this opportunity to lead the best workforce in government. It has been nearly 50 years since an operations officer rose up through the ranks to become the director. And after the experience of the last 2 months, I think I know why that is. I look out in the crowd today and I see a strong representation of the CIA's past, present, and possibly even the future. I am looking at two young ladies, special guests, who join us today. CIA has been more than a career. It has been for me, like many of you, a calling. In this building and around the world today, there are officers carrying out a vital mission, sometimes at great personal risk. I want each of you to know that I took on the position of director because I want to represent you as well as lead you. My years at CIA have rewarded me in ways that I could never have imagined, and I will continue to give it and you my all. There are countless role models and mentors who paved the way for me to stand here today. As the director, I want the current CIA leadership team to be role models and mentors for our next generation of officers who will walk the streets of far-flung capitals and work the late nights here at headquarters and abroad. For me, being director is about doing right by all of you, so that you have the tools and support needed to carry out our sacred mission. Every CIA officer has taken the same oath that I just did to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies. And today, I recommit that I will do everything in my power to justify the faith that President Trump and the American people have placed in us, and to make sure that CIA continues to provide the intelligence needed to keep our country safe. I would be remiss if I did not also note the tremendous pride I take in being the first woman to serve as director. I would not be standing before you today if not for the remarkable courage and dedication displayed by generations of OSS and agency women in roles both large and small, who challenged stereotypes, broke down barriers, and opened doors for the rest of us. I am deeply indebted to them, and I am extremely proud to follow in their footsteps and to carry on their extraordinary legacy. I stand on the shoulders of heroines who never sought public acclaim, but served as inspirations to the generations that came after them. I also want to express a special thank you and welcome to Eliza and Zoe, who have joined us today. The notes from these two young ladies, ages 6 and 7, sent to me, sat on my desk these last 2 months and motivated me daily. In their own words and pictures, they expressed their excitement about the opportunity my nomination represented, and to Eliza and Zoe, I would simply say, we did it. Lastly, allow me just a moment to talk about the future of this agency. A little over a year ago, Secretary Pompeo first spoke to me about becoming the deputy director. At that time, he said, CIA is the world's preeminent intelligence service, and I want to make sure we position it to stay that way. Mike was right. We are the best, and our challenge is to always be the best. We cannot rest on our laurels. We must learn from the past, but we cannot dwell in the past. We must constantly learn, adjust, improve, and strive to be better. We demand it of ourselves, and America deserves nothing less. That includes boosting our foreign language proficiency, strengthening our partnerships overseas and here at home, and deploying more of our officers to the foreign field. We are a foreign intelligence service, and our workforce and our priorities need to reflect that. We also need greater focus and effort on the strategic threats our nation faces, as well as the persistent threat from global terrorism. As always, the key to our success against these challenges will be empowering the incredible talent that resides within CIA. The men and women who serve here are a national treasure, from the operations officers who collect our intelligence, to the analysts who contextualize and evaluate it for senior policymakers, to the support officers who enable every aspect of our mission, to the scientists, engineers, and cyber specialists who give us a decisive edge over our adversaries. The only way to confront these threats is to forge ahead with determination and with the same expeditionary spirit that has defined our agency since its founding more than 70 years ago. I am profoundly honored to lead you in that fight and to work alongside each one of you as we advance our vital mission. So, Mr. President, thank you again for giving me the opportunity to serve, to represent the men and women of CIA, and to carry out the critical work of helping protect our country, our people, and our way of life. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the Director of the Central Intelligence Agency, thank you to our distinguished guests and to each and every one of you for participating in today's ceremony. As we close the ceremony, I would just ask the audience to please remain in place while the Presidential Party and Director Haspel depart the lobby. Once they depart the lobby, those in the lower lobby, please exit the front by the seal, and our guests that are here in the upper lobby, please adjourn to the portrait gallery to my right to join the Director for a reception. Thank you again for being with us today.
All right, so there you have it. Gina Haspel becomes the first female director of the CIA. CBS News intelligence reporter Olivia Grazis joins me now to talk about this. So, Olivia, this is obviously a pretty historic, not only because she's the first female director, but she pointed out in her speech that she's the first operations officer to rise through the ranks of the CIA to become the head of the CIA in 50 years.
That's right. She pointed out the two reasons that this day is remarkable and historic. One, her role on the operations side, which is really infrequently seen in those who have led the CIA in the past. And two, yes, because she is a woman who holding that role is even rarer. She, of course, said that she is reluctant to tout the historic nature of this particular circumstance. She said, you know, she would be remiss in not acknowledging the many women who at the OSS, the predecessor to the CIA, had paved her way. And you saw the president and his administration pay tribute to what really was a remarkable milestone. He was flanked by a number of members of his cabinet, by the former director and current Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, by the Republican leadership of the House and Senate Intelligence Committees, and by a crowd that really rewarded Ms. Haspel with sustained applause. You heard a lot of cheers, especially when the president did mention that this is the first woman to hold this role.
Yeah, and as I understand it, she enjoys tremendous support from the rank and file within the CIA. Not so in terms of lawmakers. She didn't breeze through this nomination procedure or process at all. You know, she's a lifelong undercover spy, and with that came some serious questions about how she spent her time within the CIA.
That's right, and both she and the president acknowledged that fact. The president said it was courageous of her to even say yes to this role. He said it almost didn't happen. And that was true. It was a protracted and contentious battle for her confirmation. A lot of people taking issue with her history, her complicated history, with the enhanced interrogation program, which many refer to as torture in the aftermath of 9/11. And she herself said that, as an operations officer, nearly 5 decades in the making, she understood why this is such a rare occurrence, because of how public and really difficult that entire process was. She had many detractors. She had Democrats pointing out that she was unsuitable for the role, that the symbolism of this confirmation would send the wrong message to allies about the United States' stance on torture, and pointing out that the president himself has made comments in the past about wanting to bring back some methods that were harsher on terrorists. All that were concerns raised over the course of her confirmation process, but all things that she overcame, both during the course of her public hearing and in her conversations with senators behind the scenes.
Yeah, and part of the reason she was able to overcome that and win over some resistant Democrats is because she sort of went on the record about how she felt about enhanced interrogations or torture, that she didn't want to judge those who came before her, who determined that it was a good process. And she acknowledged that there was intelligence gathered, but ultimately she felt that it damaged the CIA.
That's right. She did pen a remarkable letter that was made public to Senator Warner, the vice chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, saying essentially what she didn't say in her hearing and what she was faulted for not saying in her hearing, which was that the program did damage to the standing of the CIA and to its officers. That is a very difficult line for her to toe, because obviously she's been recognized as, being revered within the agency for her work, for how dangerous it has been, for how rare it is for a woman to have accomplished it, and, for her to cast aspersions on the difficult choices of people made in the aftermath of 9/11 is difficult. She said today that she is looking not only to lead the agency, but to represent all of it. She knows that she can't criticize those who really were put in difficult positions and made difficult choices, thinking that they were legal at the time, and she knew that she needed to do that in order to have Democrats come to her side.
Right, and she also said she would not restart enhanced interrogation programs. So now she's the head of the CIA. She's going to have to hit the ground running. She sort of indicated in her speech some areas where she felt the CIA needed boosting, including languages and having more officers out into the field. But what are going to be sort of her main challenges come day one?
There are any number of challenges she'll face right as she begins. Just earlier today, her predecessor, Mike Pompeo, laid out a vision for how we should proceed with regard to Iran. Obviously, we have a scheduled summit with North Korea, whose complications have been laid bare in recent weeks. And she's also got to sustain the relationship between the president and the agency, which in the past has been fraught. You saw the president tweet repeatedly today, quoting a Fox News commentator, but excoriating former director John Brennan, accusing him of improperly starting surveillance into his campaign, possibly. And, in the past, Director Pompeo did a lot to really remedy the relationship between the intelligence agency and the president. Gina Haspel is not known to have the kind of relationship that Mike Pompeo and the president have had. She's known to be a straight shooter. She's going to be in the room like Pompeo was for the president's daily brief, and she's going to have to sustain the relationship that Pompeo was managed to chart over the course of his tenure as director.